All right, we're rolling. Go.
Hi, guys. So we're still delving into the micromanaging side of the QSR industry. And part of the reason we want to spend, more than just one podcast on it is because it seems to us, seems to me, seems to Hunter, other people that I've talked to in the industry in QSR, is that for whatever reason, micromanagement seems to be pretty prevalent in our industry. Wouldn't you agree?
Either consciously or non,
Right.
yes. And I think a lot of it, for example, I had somebody come up to me today, or excuse me, a couple of days ago, and it's somebody I work with, somebody who's been in the industry for as long as you have. And I was getting pissed off about something, and she just said, that might have been just the way that person was brought up, and they don't know any better.
I mean, one of the things I wrote down is, understanding the root cause of it, understanding what's the root cause of micromanagement in our industry. And that to me, is the nail on the head. I mean, it usually comes from, first of all, don't think of micromanagement necessarily as personal. I think we do have a tendency to get our back up. They're targeting me, they're targeting me, they're targeting me. And I think a lot of it comes from the manager's own anxiety. The person that's micromanaging you, your direct report, it comes from their anxiety, their fear of failure, their lack of trust, and the biggie I wrote was their default setting of the person of how they were managed.
Yeah, and if they started in this industry and they were brought up in this industry and that's how they were managed, they don't know any better.
Right.
So that was a bit of a moment of grace that I had to extend this week when the gal that I work with mentioned that to me. I'm like, never really thought of it that way, because to me, I'm on the other side of the spectrum, coming from an entrepreneurial background, who's always tried to work himself out of a job as quickly as possible. I want to empower and let go as fast as I can.
Right.
That's my default. But
because micromanaging is so prevalent in the QSR industry, you can see then where that's the experience that a lot of people that are raised up, they were taught, brought up under, an organization that micromanaged. Where you and I had a lot of experiences before I got into QSR, and I had experiences as a manager outside of QSR and as a leader and as a VP. So I didn't go into QSR with a micromanaging mindset like you did. And so maybe you're sensitive to being micromanaged, and I was sensitive to not micromanaging.
Yeah, I think I am sensitive to micromanagement because I do come from an entrepreneurial background, and I do have to interrogate myself almost daily with sort of that question: are you being micromanaged, or do you just really hate having a boss?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the latter,
right?
Where it's like, well, I actually have a better way of doing this. Just how about you just let me do it? Right. So maybe that's how maybe we need to talk a little bit more about that, maybe now or later, as far as what is like, when can you tell the difference?
Well, yeah, I think that's a good topic. It's probably pretty in depth, maybe in the next podcast or something.
Yeah, I think but for the sake of this one, I think we need to continue to equip the listeners with what micromanagement looks like, and if it's so severe or shows up in different ways multiplicatively over time, well, then you might need to look for different options.
So
the one thing, just so everybody knows, and I'm going to say this so I can equip and empower my best friend here. We understand that we've been getting a lot of views lately, and David is incredibly passionate, and so I'm going to empower David to show and be a little bit more passionate than what he's been.
So I came at this at two different approaches. And we talked about this last week, but this is a continuation of last week's podcast, because this is something that really pisses me off. And it pisses me off for two reasons. One, the two biggest issues in our industry, QSR industry, is labor, getting and keeping retention and recruitment, or recruitment and retention. Number one issue.
Number one.
And if you're a micromanager, you can throw retention and recruitment out the window.
Yeah.
Because you will never, ever, 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 ever have success if you are constantly up your employees' butts.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
Number two problem is we operate on low margins. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you operate on low margins and you are always in your people's face and you are solely focused on the labor side of your KPIs, you are not going to cut your way to success, period. And I have seen too many franchisee entrepreneur people get into the industry or buy a struggling location and think I'm going to make that store successful by cutting it, by cutting my way to success. That never, ever, ever, ever works. And I've seen it fail way too many times.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the root evil in our industry, and evil, is micromanaging. And unfortunately,
how about that?
And unfortunately, it is extremely prevalent in our industry. And if
unconsciously or consciously.
Yeah, very much. Consciously with, I'm going to cut my way to success. I'm going to go into the store and I'm going to cut, 15 labor hours, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm going to make them hit this labor target and they must hit this food cost. All right, great. So you must hit this labor target. Okay, for me to be able to hit that labor target, I'm only going to have one person working from this hour to this hour. I'm only going to have 3 people when I should have 5 working from here to here. Now my AUVs, my revenues are going down instead of up.
Mm-hmm.
I may be profitable for the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you must hit this food cost. Your trucks can be no more than this, period. If they are, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I can hit that truck if I only carry 4 of the 8 required flavors of this.
Yep.
Okay, I can hit it, but you know what? The last 3 days of the week before my truck comes, I'm going to have a sign up that says, I'm out of this, I'm out of this, I'm out of this, I'm out of this, I'm out of this. And then I, the customer, walk into the store and see that. You think I'm going back to that store? You think I'm going back to that brand? Right?
Right.
So then the idiot who thinks they're going to micromanage their way to success not only is ruining their own business, they're ruining my business if I'm in the same brand. Passionate enough?
That'll preach.
Because it did,
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
We don't put a labor percentage in the bank. We put money in the bank.
Money in the bank.
And if you can outsell your problems by increasing the top line, well, then I don't know.
So I've always been a top line focused person, not a, more so than a bottom line focused person.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, okay, here's a struggling store, and we've bought a few struggling stores,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of saying, okay, I want to see the P&Ls, I want to look at the numbers and all of that, but I'm more concerned about how many customers are you serving? What's your customer service look like? I'm looking at the dollars that you're bringing into the store. Because the minute I don't look at that and I start looking at, okay, you're running a point over on labor, 2 points over on labor, we're going to cut that, we're going to cut this, then I'm cutting out the dollars at the top too.
Yep.
And that to me is just asinine. If you're not going to cut your way to success. The only way, the way to be successful is you build your way to success. You don't cut your way to success. So you build your sales. You look at it and say, you know what? Maybe I do need, even though the labor percentage says that I should only have 2 people on between this time and this time, I'm going to put 3 on. Yeah, it's going to cost me a little bit in the beginning, but in the long run, hey, I'm going down to that store, and that's my store, and I'm going to that store because I know I'm in and out. I'm in and out. I'm in and out.
Yeah.
Right? So then I'm building my way to success instead of cutting.
It's so myopic when you focus on a percentage like that. It's so myopic because it's going to be the death of 1,000 cuts over time.
But I'm not.
Well, because what do? You start, whether your employees are short-staffed all the time because you're running skeleton crews because you're trying to hit a labor number, or if they're constantly running out of things because they need to hit a cost of goods number, either way, morale's going to start tanking.
Well, morale's going to tank, but also you're going to see, you're going to look at it for the first month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, and you're going to say, oh, wow, profit's good, profit's good, profit's good. But you're not seeing sales going like this, And if you want sales, our goal as franchisees, our goals as business owners is to increase our sales. And if you increase sales, you increase profits.
We just, this past week on LinkedIn, I've been seeing a lot of Q1 reports coming out for Burger King and McDonald's and all these brands. What do they talk about at the Q1 meetings? What's the one? It starts with one word. Earnings.
Earnings, yeah.
That's all anybody gives a shit about.
Well, earnings are, that's profits. Earnings are profits. But the way to increase earnings is increase sales.
Yes.
Yeah, I can make my earnings look good on a P&L and on paper by cutting.
Yeah.
I can make my earnings look great on paper and cutting, But then in the long term, like you said, the death by 1,000 cuts. We can name 100 QS brands. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating. We can name a lot of, not just QSR brands, but, that just faded away.
Yeah.
That are here no more, But I think that every franchisee, every restaurant manager, every district manager, senior district manager, and, on up, needs to take a hard look at themselves and say, am I a micromanager? Because like you said, may not realize it. It may be unconscious. It may be default.
Yeah, then they don't know why their best RGMs are leaving.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Was it a bad hire or was it a bad environment? Is the question. Why does our best talent keep walking out the door? I don't know, because you're not letting them be talented for you.
How many times have I heard
you're being a tyrant?
Yeah. How many times have I had fellow business people come up to me and say, why can't I keep good people? Because you're an ass. That's why you can't keep good people.
No kidding.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're up their butt, you're in their face constantly. That's why you can't keep good people. I'm not discounting. I think KPIs and metrics are very important.
Yeah.
And they're very important for the type of leader that I wanted to be, who was not in your face leader. How can I have a quick snapshot of store A? Well, let me look at their KPIs real quick. That gives me a quick snapshot. Doesn't give me the whole story, but it gives me a quick snapshot. So KPIs are important.
Yeah.
I'm not diminishing those, but all right, let's bounce. I'm going to do you might be a micromanager if, okay?
Yeah, I think that's fine to continue because we'll put an episode out there and then I'll think about things or things will happen while I'm at work throughout the week and be like, yep, there's an instance, there's an instance, there's an instance. And it's not sometimes it's meant to be pejorative, but sometimes it's also just meant to be objective in terms of Well, because I do want to give the benefit of the doubt to the micromanagers out there who don't even know that they're doing
Right.
it. Because you can change.
I mean,
you
I
can
think,
change.
yeah,
and you can stop.
Exactly.
Right. So I've written down a few things.
Yeah, let's do this.
I think that you are a micromanager if customer first is a thing. I think if you have the belief in the axiom and the North Star that is customer first, I think you are a micromanager. Because that will, I mean, first of all, it's just not true in my book. I believe that that's an incomplete sentence. Customer first, employee more first.
I was just going to finish. I was going to finish your axiom. So
period. Especially, and you and I talked about this on the phone this week. Especially if you're a franchisee in a brand. So if you're in, let's say, a Burger King, and you're a franchisee of Burger King, that's a trusted brand. People are going to come, especially in the Q1 sales reports say that Burger King is roaring back right now. So people are they're going to come to Burger King regardless because it's a trusted brand. Now, if it was Hunter's Hamburgers, well, I haven't been around long enough for that brand to be trusted.
Right. So Hunter's Hamburgers has to build up the customer service word of mouth.
Yes.
Where that word of mouth service has already been built up by the brand. And that's why people like me say, it's like, okay, let's look at two things side by side. Do we want to start our own
concept?
Yep. Or do we want to buy into a concept?
Right.
It makes more sense to us to buy into a concept. We're not reinventing the wheel kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and that's why I like franchises for that reason, because the customers are going to come regardless. Now, with the asterisk there, because the argument then is, well, then are you condoning poor customer service? No, I'm not conducting poor customer service. In fact, I'm vehemently against it, and it's also a non-factor if you put your employee more first.
Well, what's my
period?
What's my axiom?
The most important person in the store is the restaurant manager. Mm-hmm. Is that what you were going to say? Do I know this man? Can you tell I used to work for him? Okay. Yes, the most important person in that location is the restaurant manager. The most important person to the restaurant manager is the employee. Mm-hmm. Period.
But why?
Because the customer first dictum is a double-edged sword. Uh-huh. It's not even a double-edged sword. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword type of thing, right? In fact, I was walking into my location yesterday, and they got truck that morning, and there was truck still all over the place. And now, if somebody else came into there, maybe an ARL or something else, they probably would have gotten pissed off and said, "Well, why is the truck still not put away, and it's 4:45 in the afternoon?" Well, I would have had no problem with my team if they just shrugged their shoulders and said, "Customer first."
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's a live by the sword, die by the sword.
It is
mentality. And
but if I am putting the RGM or the manager, or the restaurant manager, as the most important person to me as the business owner, or to me as the director of operations, the district manager, senior district manager, whatever, the most important person in the store is the restaurant manager. And if I am following that dictum, that's going to trickle down to the customer. But if I'm constantly in, micromanaging that manager, that's also going to go down to the customer.
Yeah.
And as a customer, would I rather be in an environment that I can tell the employees are happy, they're gratified at their job, they're in it to win it, yeah. Mm-hmm. But or do I want to go into a place that, the reason you're going to get poor customer service is because the employees are treated poorly.
Yeah. I make it so blatantly obvious that my people are first. When I have a one-on-one with them, I actually position myself in the dining room so my back is mm-hmm. to the customers. Because I can't tell you the amount of times that I have been in a meeting with somebody that I report to, regardless of concept, mm-hmm. where I will see that person's eyes diverting over my shoulder, looking over me, seeing if everything's okay. Or do we need to go help them? No, we don't need to go help them. You need to help me right now because I am your employee. I'm the most important person in front of you right now. We are talking about me, my path, and my development. Period.
How many times have I, over the course of 30 years, been in a store and told a customer to get the hell out of my store? Probably can't count it on 2 hands, But if
Oh yeah, I just told you the story the other day with one of our service people who got very upset and chucked his headset and then had a moment. And then I walked him outside and I asked him what happened. He said the customer cursed, and I said, "Listen, okay, if they're dropping enough bomb to you, you can I'm just want to empower you, my friend, to say, you know what, we're not doing this here. You can just pull forward."
Yeah.
No, you don't have. No, absolutely not. Well, customer first would say, well, no, actually, we need to take that person's money. It doesn't matter how bad they treat us. No, thank you. No, thank you. So,
I had a store that most of the employees that worked in that store were of a different racial demographic than the community was. I have no problem with it. And I happened to be in the store, and a customer came in and started using a racial epithet, and I flew off the handle.
Yeah.
And I think that there were a couple of employees that were working that didn't know who I was. Rather new employees didn't know who I was. But there was one older employee that had worked there for a while, and she said, "Yeah, David, don't mess around with this stuff." I said, "Never, ever, ever come back to this store. And if I see you in any of my other stores, I'll ask you to leave them too."
Right.
The abuse that employees that, $13, $12 an hour employees take is dumbfounding to me, that people think I'm going to take out all my aggressions on this $12 an hour employee who has no,
Yeah. So
I've seen, we've all seen the YouTube videos of idiot customers slapping employees in the face. Yeah, I had a cash register thrown at me. It's no, don't. Yeah.
So you are definitely a micromanager in my book if customer first is a belief you have. You are definitely a micromanager in my book if instructions and/or success is not crystal clear. If the goalpost is constantly moving, if the success or failure is open to interpretation,
right?
Okay, then you are definitely a micromanager.
If you're vague,
you cannot hit a target you can't see. Period.
Yeah.
And that kind of
we've talked a lot about the moving goalpost.
Why?
Yeah.
Like why?
Yeah, goalposts are going to change. Well, they're going to change a little bit, but but not every week, or maybe not even every quarter.
That's what my next one is.
Okay.
It says priorities, even though that's a misnomer. There's only, you can't have multiple priorities.
Right.
So I guess that would be one as well. If you have multiple priorities, you're definitely micromanager. But if the KPIs or whatever success looks like changes daily, weekly, even monthly, you're definitely a micromanager. And the next one reminds me of the strength and conditioning industry, because coaches were very much like this, and so are micromanagers. They even request feedback, but they don't want to change.
Oh, yeah.
Football coaches are that way. Football coaches are that way. Strength and conditioning coaches are that way. Everybody thinks they got the best damn program to make kids bigger, faster, and stronger. And they go to all of these continuing education summits to gather more information. They ain't going to change a damn thing. They don't want to change. They want feedback, but they don't want to change. Next one, you are definitely a micromanager if you are stretching your RGM's salaries. What do I mean by that?
Oh, yeah.
What do I mean by that? Well, if the RGM in Use in Mind book is the most important person in that store, they should be able to have their cake and eat it too. What do I mean by that?
I know what you mean.
If they're going to hit the metrics, if they're going to meet the numbers that you want them to meet, who gives a flying fuck how many hours they are in the building for?
Right. I love I mean, we've seen this, I've seen a couple of QSR restaurants that this isn't necessarily for managers, but they'll have these big pie in the sky billboards up in front of their store. And it says, we start our employees, you can start working here for $22 an hour. And so I had a friend that worked in that brand, and I said, explain this to me. How are you doing this? And he says, well, he said, yeah, we'll pay you $22 an hour, but you must have an open schedule. So you must be available from open to close.
Mm-hmm.
You must be on call all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You must commit to at least X amount of hours a week. So there was, but I'm driving by and I see the sign. I'm like, oh, $22 an hour.
So they're trying to monopolize your time.
Yeah. And it's or the same thing with, we offer a very competitive salary for our restaurant managers, X. And so, all these, these other brands or these other, are looking at X and saying, wow, that's a great number. I'm going to come work for that brand, or I'm going to come and work for that owner.
It's such a wolf in sheep's clothing, because that's part of the reason why you have the turnover that you do.
Right.
Because you're not going to retain that top tier talent if you're stretching that person's salary. And you're not going to maintain or develop any sort of talent underneath them, because, hey, if this person is contracted for X amount of hours per week, who's getting all of the hours when it comes time to cut?
Right.
That person.
Right.
Not the person who wants as many hours as you can give them and wants to grow in the company. But hey, well, I'm contracted for 50 hours a week. You're not. So in order to hit this labor number, you got to go.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. It's so insane. It's I mean, definitively insane. Insane. Can you tell that I'm a little bit passionate about that one?
Yeah.
Meeting madness. If you miss something, if a number isn't hit, and then we have to meet about it, and we have to collectively get together and everybody rub. It's like when a dog takes a shit in your living room. And what do? You rub its nose in it. Why would you do that to a person? Because that's how you're making them feel. Right.
But not only are you doing it to a person, you're doing it to a person in front of all of their fellow coworkers.
Yeah.
Okay, this store didn't hit this KPI, so we're going to have a meeting of all the managers in this market, and I'm going to talk about, everybody in the market knows what store you're talking about. Even if you don't say the person's my name, we know.
But here's the thing: if you actually let them run their store their way, they probably would have a way higher chance of hitting that number. But if you're going to, this one wasn't written down, but I guess if you are smart enough to finally land on what success looks like in your organization, then if you tell that person, well, here's how you're going to do it, and not give them the autonomy to do it, then that's micromanagement.
No, it's better to say.
Then that's micromanagement.
Yeah, it's better to say this is the KPI. The KPI for this store, and I think we're a little bit blinded if we have the same KPI goal for every single one of our stores. But
high AUV stores versus low AUV stores.
So if I say to you,
metrics are going to be a little bit different.
Right. So this is your KPI. This is your metrics. This is your key performance index. I would like you to hit this number. How are you going to do that? Instead of this is how you're going to hit that number. You're
going to have this person in this spot, and this person in this spot, and this person in this spot, and they're going to stay there.
That's micromanaging. Not micromanaging.
What?
Yeah. KPIs are not micromanaging. Make that clear, because some people...
That would be like asking Aaron Rodgers to play left tackle. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback. Yeah. Put him where he is best.
Right. So instead of saying, this is the KPI that I want you to hit, and this is how you're going to do it. You should say, this is a KPI I want you to hit. Now tell me how you're going to do that.
Yeah. Yep.
No. And don't, I mean, one of the things that a trap we fall into, and you can tell I'm going, I think one of the traps that we fall into is that process is important. However, process must be tweaked for each location. Process is important in our industry. Process is very important in our industry. If I go to your brand and I order whatever,
Yep.
I better get that. If I go to a store that's in South Carolina and order that, they better be the same. That's why we buy brands, right?
But in terms of deployment and how you...
That's what I was going to say. But if you're telling your people, okay, the person that has the most longevity must be in this position, then the person that's your newest hire must be in this position, and then this person labeled must be in this position, you're micromanaging.
Know the rules before you break them.
No, but I mean, not even breaking them.
No, definitely breaking them. Leaders break ruls, period.
No, but
I am totally okay with saying that. Leaders break rules. That's how leaders break through is by breaking rules. That's how leaders break through is by breaking rules. Might coin that.
But processes are important. But sometimes we get so in the weeds with process that processes in and of themselves become micromanaging.
Yeah, I mean, 1 + 3 = 4, but so does 2 + 2. Just because we have an existing way of doing things doesn't mean we should stop seeking alternative or better ways.
Right. Exactly. All right, go ahead. I got my list too, but you go.
I think this one and that one. This one, I guess people will know what I'm saying in terms of without actually having to say it. Busy work over productivity, which falls under the next one, which is deep work isn't guarded. If you're an RGM or an above store leader and your deep work isn't guarded, then you're in a bad spot.
Explain that 7th grade level.
So in which environment do you think, if I'm an RGM, I would have a better shot at working on the business? At home here in my office or in the dining room during lunch?
Oh, at home in your office.
Okay. So if we're forcing our most important person in the store to have their deep work, their admin.
So I was just trying to get your definition of deep work. So, okay.
Yeah. If you're going to have them constantly be in a place and space of interruption and distraction, not to mention the optics, you are asking your most important person to show up and work on the business, being in full regalia, uniform, and then the customers are looking at you and they're just saying, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like it's lunch. Your dumbass is sitting out here on a computer. I'm waiting on my food. I've been waiting here for 5 minutes. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So you're not even setting your people up for success like that.
I hate seeing employees working in the dining room at their laptops or whatever. Just, because the optics that it sends to the customer is horrible.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And because the customers are first.
There's a difference between busy work and productive work.
Yeah.
And a lot of micromanagers interpret busy work as good work.
And it's hard to define, but if you've been in that position, you know it, where you're trying so desperately to work on the business and you're being constantly interrupted. And it's like, I can't get a damn thing done. Right? I mean, I'm supposed to write 2 weeks for the schedules for 60 employees right now. And not to mention everything else that goes with running a business. It's crazy.
We had a position where I had multiple stores across the state, right? So I was driving a lot, and I found that I got more done driving from point A to point B. Maybe a 2-hour drive, I accomplished so much in that 2-hour drive just thinking about the business. And then having someone say, well, you're wasting so much time driving from point A to point B.
Oh, no, you're not. No, you are not. In fact, and I would say you're right in line with what Jim Sullivan says, who wrote the book Multi-Unit Leadership. He said, he said above story leaders, and I would even put high level, high competency RGMs in that category as well.
MUMs.
You are paid to think.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. You are definitely a micromanager if you are forcing compliance rather than earning commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Compliance over commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're definitely a micromanager if myopia reigns supreme. Hey, I saw that the labor percentage was X yesterday. Is that for real? Was that a real number? What are we doing about this? It's like, okay, well, let's just break it down here for a minute. So if I'm a high level RGM and I was at one location, turned it around in 8 months and then went to a different location and now I'm here doing my thing, it's probably not going to take me nearly as much time to turn this around since it only took me 8 months to turn around the last one. So I'm probably a little bit better at it this time around since we're always better at the second time doing something than the first time. So I'm trying to get this thing up and running and the morale being good and all these things. Not to mention there's a stupid, initiative going on or whatever in regards to speed, whatever the case may be. So I would rather have the people and not need them than need them and not have them.
It's always easier to cut than call in.
Yes, it's always easier to cut than call in. And so you staff for coverage, not forecast, period. But let's just talk about the forecast anyways. But it's like, okay, it's one of the busiest times perceived of the year. If you're a Michigander or a West Michigander, you know about this thing called tulip time in Holland. Okay, well, we're going to staff that sucker as if they're coming, right? And if they don't come, well, then you know what? We're going to hit the fastest times in the region, which we did.
Right.
Okay, so talking about that, I think is just when we can't see past the next day part, it's just so retarded. You are a micromanager. You are being micromanaged, I should say, if you are constantly being undermined by the person you report to. So if I tell my team, here's the priority, this is what we're going to go after until further notice. And then the person that I report to comes in and says, what is going on with this? What are we doing about this? What are we doing about this? I will leave that right there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I made it a point sometimes that, people say, why are you like that? I always made it a point is that I only discussed the business with the manager. Oh, I mean, I would, I'd point something else like, if I walked into a store and, something egregious was happening, I'd say something.
Right.
But if I walk to a store and we have a dress code policy and one of the employees didn't have their hat on, I didn't say anything to that employee.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mr. Manager.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because that's not...
You would send me, you wouldn't, yeah, if I wasn't there, you would just send me a picture.
Right.
Just like, hey, just want to let you know.
Right.
This person's wearing camo pants.
And I would treat it as I wanted it not to be micromanaging. And I'd say this, I'm just an extra pair of eyes for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an extra pair of eyes. But I'm not, it's your job as the manager to correct the employee, not mine. It's your job to set the goal. It's your job to tell them what KPI you're focusing on. It's not mine.
You are definitely being micromanaged if candor is considered cancer. I can't tell you how many...
I'm writing that one down.
I can't tell you how many meetings I've been to, regardless of concept, where somebody came up to me after I said something that kind of shook the room.
Or rolled their eyes.
And they said, you said what we were all thinking, but too scared to say.
Oh, yeah.
What? That just says it all. You're too scared to speak up?
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
What kind of culture is that?
Right. If I am afraid to give my opinion or to make a suggestion about how we might be able to accomplish a goal better,
Mm-hmm.
if I am too afraid to say that for fear of losing my job, it's a micromanaged culture.
Yep.
It's not a good culture.
Because then what you're doing is the next piece here, which is tolerating toxicity. You are definitely
Tolerate toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You're definitely in a micromanaged environment if toxicity is tolerated.
If you have a bad apple,
You've got to excise it yesterday.
If you have a bad apple, even if they are your best employee, your fastest employee, your best customer service employee, but no one else can stand to work with them, get rid of them.
But they tolerate it.
Yeah, get rid of them.
They tolerate it.
And I think,
and again, you wonder why you can't keep your best talent.
Right.
Because you're allowing the people who create the problems to be protected because they're portraying themselves as the victims.
Right.
That is a terrible, toxic culture, and it is eating your best leaders alive.
Right.
This one's a biggie for me, and it is the last. It is certainly not least.
So let me stop. I want to add a comment into that, because this is another soapbox of mine. If you are questioning or not allowing your restaurant manager to get rid of people, yeah, then there is something wacky about,
Then they're not the restaurant manager.
No, they're not.
You are.
Yeah.
Whoever the restaurant manager, whoever the RGM is reporting to is actually the RGM.
Yeah. The person that is responsible for the hiring and firing of the store staff is the restaurant manager.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the hell their title is.
Yeah.
And if you're a restaurant manager and you don't have full control, and by full control, I mean hiring, firing, scheduling over the people that report to you, then you're just a placeholder.
And a very expensive one.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
Then because from there you can cascade all into questions of the franchisee and or operator's business acumen. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you like? You're paying this person $70,000 a year to just what? Make tacos? To make sandwiches? And you don't allow them to run the business?
Right. And that's a thing of mine.
What an exercise in futility.
Yeah.
Not to mention just a suck for money.
So let's say you have a person who has the title of restaurant general manager. You are putting them in charge of, depending upon the brand you have in that, anywhere from $1 million to $8 million a year of your money. And if you can't trust them to make decisions, that
you either made the wrong hire, or you are not the person they ought to be reporting to.
Okay.
Last one for me. Loyalty instead of competency is rewarded. If
they've been with us for 17 years, I don't care that they came to work drunk or that they, are going to sue us or this or that or the other thing. We have to be loyal to them. And that was a biggie for me and my partner to learn. So he came from a blue-collar union environment, and I came from a very corporate white-collar world. And he was very big on seniority, and I wasn't. I was big on competency. He was big on loyalty. But what's funny is that if you reward competency, you develop loyalty.
Yeah.
So if you reward competency, they get more loyal.
That's a big one for me. That's a huge one for me. I don't care if this person's been with us for 6 weeks and this person's been with us for 2 years. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if this person eats, breathes the brand, the company, the franchisee, and they play the corporate charade and sing the song and dance, but they fucking suck at their job. I'm not promoting them.
Right. We would have those conversations in the beginning, especially. We had those conversations a lot about, well, they should be promoted because they've been with us for 2 years. versus you want to promote this person who's only been there 3 weeks. I'm like, yeah. I'm not looking at longevity. I'm looking at who can do the job better. And we got to the point where it was competency over what was the other C?
Oh, I put loyalty.
Oh yeah. Loyalty over competency.
Yeah, I mean, it been again, question the person's business acumen if that's how you're basing your decisions.
Yeah. How long had you been with us before you became a manager?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
And you know, all it took was just a.
And how many employees did we have working for us longer than 6 weeks? Everybody that you ended up becoming their direct report had been with us longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there was one that was upset.
There was.
Yeah.
But you know the funny thing about that, the great irony, is that once I got in a position of authority and influence, I made that person the manager of that location.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Over my objection.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she still might be there too.
And it was over my objection. And I'm like, well, he's the manager of that store.
Right.
You know?
So, I mean, that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Those are 14 examples that came off the top of my head maybe 15 minutes before you walked into the studio.
All right,
I'm
going to read mine. You're a micromanager if you must approve everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a micromanager, if you're focusing on the tiny details too often, too much.
Yeah.
You're a micromanager if you're constantly following up. Do you check the work even before it's due? It's like, okay, I want for this quarter, this store to hit a labor percentage of X. That's it. But then every other day, I'm like, how far are you from hitting that X this quarter? We're 3 days into the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then next, how far are you? How far are you? How far are you? You know, let's have a meeting after a meeting after a meeting to check. You know, then you're constantly checking in on the work.
Mm-hmm.
You might be a micromanager if you're constantly redoing the person's work. You know, so if I have to constantly redo some paperwork that you do,
mm-hmm.
or if I didn't like that you used a black pen and it should have been done in blue,
mm-hmm.
and I've run across that, you know, so I'm going to rewrite the whole thing in blue instead of black or whatever. You're a micromanager.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the simple fix for that is, hey, this is how we do it. This is how it has to be done legally, per the legal department, for the government. That's how it has to be done. There's your explanation. And if they're constantly then, after you've given them the explanation, then you need a new person.
Mm-hmm. If you're allowed to fire them.
If you have to own every single step,
mm-hmm.
you're a micromanager. If you're a quick question to ask yourself about your team is if your team waits instead of X, you're a micromanager.
Mm-hmm.
If your team cannot make a decision without running it by you, you're a micromanager.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the quick, you know, those are my quick tests on micromanager. And then I followed it up with, you know, how can I survive under a micromanager kind of thing? And we've talked about this a little bit, but I expanded it on it a little bit more. So I'll go into that a little bit, and then I'll give my closing, which I told you was, and that's a good.
Okay.
Give your man, you know, if you feel you're being micromanaged, communicate. Give them updates before they ask.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, boss. Yesterday, you know, our KPI goal on labor is this percentage. Yesterday, we didn't hit it, but we will hit it for the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Give them updates before they ask you.
Okay.
You know, send an end of the week summary. here's a one paragraph thing of everything we did accomplish this week at our store. One paragraph. You know, we did this, we did that, we did this. And in that paragraph summary, flag a problem. Hey, this is something that an issue I'm facing, and this is how I'm going to deal with it. You know, the communication part up to a micromanager. If you're making the assumption that most people that micromanage are because of the micromanager's anxiety, their fear of failing,
or they're looking out for themselves.
Yeah, looking out for themselves. Well, lack of trust. Yeah. You know, make your work visible. Always make your work visible. You know, document decisions, all of that stuff. Have the direct but diplomatic conversations. I mean, there's a difference between candor and crassness. You know, you brought up candor. There is a difference between being candid and being crass. And I think some people mix those up, you know. Again, I said this before, I'll say it again. Hey, Mr. Mrs. Manager, what does success look like for you, for me in this position? You know, when you see me in this position, what would you say? How do you define success for me in this position? And hit your deadlines. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say, I will have that paperwork to you, I will have that information to you by next week, Thursday, have it to them by next week, Thursday or before. You know, and if you don't have it to them, you're building trust then. Control what you can control. I think control what you can control and don't get frustrated by something that's out of your control.
Yep.
This is my final, and I told this to you.
Okay.
You need to know when it's a culture problem, not just a person problem. Meaning, is the micromanaging just the person I report to? Or is there a culture of micromanaging in this organization? If the micromanaging is systemic, if it's coming from my boss's 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 boss, right? That could be a signal about the company itself. And if it is a signal about the company itself, and if that's the case, you need to ask yourself the question, is it worth it for me to adapt? Or is it time for me to move on?
Right. We're going to leave you with that to chew on. No pun intended. In the meantime, we're going to start having some guests. Some people have been calling us, reaching out. So that'll be exciting. Get ready for that. And in the meantime, if you want to succeed despite being micromanaged, then please go to hunterchernesky.com. Download my free gift to you, the 28-day playbook to turn restaurant general managers into trusted leaders in just 28 days, even under micromanagement. And at that website as well, you can also find the link to my book, The Way Out of Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery. It's also available on Amazon. Give us both follows, likes, subscribes.
Give this a 5-star review and share it.
There you go. Talk to you guys later.